So welcome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I have Carrie-Anne on the podcast today. And Carrie-Anne, most of you probably know her from The Matrix, where she played opposite Keanu Reeves, and so many other significant roles in her life as an actress. What you might not know, as some of you do love her for, probably is a whole different project, which is probably what we're going to talk most about today. Annapurna Living, which is a place where you offer a place to go where you hold space for women who want to get into peace and, as you call it, live an extremely thoughtful and considerate life, which I think is so needed in these times of change and chaos. And then also the Fierce Grace Collective, which is a place for yoga and peace and mindfulness. I do find it pretty interesting that The Matrix is coming up again, that you're now recording. You're doing number 4, Matrix 4 right now, as the whole world is becoming a matrix and everyone's talking about the Great Awakening, red pills, the different versions of perception, and that whole concept of timelines that we create with our thoughts and actions and feelings. So I would love for you to also talk a little bit about what that feels like for you, because to me it looks like a huge synchronistic important event, and how that looks like when you look at this whole chaotic world as well. How do you fit into that whole picture?
Oh, I don't know. I really don't think about it too much because, I do my work and I am so grateful and love every minute of the creative process of being a part of this franchise of movies, and can't believe that 20 years later I'm doing another one. And I know that there's a lot of memes out there with a character that I played, and representing a lot of things for lots of different people. And I'm choosing not to analyze it too much, because I'm in the middle of creating character and being in the movie, and I love to be part of storytelling. And I've, when I first did the first Matrix, I didn't have a cell phone then. And I think I had a laptop. I had one of those first laptops that Apple came out with. They were like turquoise and orange and like all these like delicious colors.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know how to send an email, or I had no idea how to use it. And then after the Matrix came out, and then we did 2 and 3, and then I had my children, I just kept feeling like almost every day commenting, wow, I feel like we're in the Matrix. I feel like we're actually in the Matrix. Cut to 20 years later, it really does feel like we are. But I've been feeling that for a long time.
Yes.
I think one of the reasons why I resonate so much with what you're doing, I was really thinking about it today as I was cooking food for my family and doing my workout in the kitchen so I could cook and work out in between. I thought about what I love about what you're talking about. I was explaining it to a friend today. I'm not a parent of an autistic child. My children are not on the spectrum. I have friends whose children are. I see a lot of children that are on the spectrum when I just go out into my life. What I love about what you focus on, because I'm a fighter, and if I was in a parent's shoes, I may want to fight. And the fact that you are really encouraging parents, and I think anyone can benefit from what you're teaching. Instead of focusing on what we don't want, we focus on what we want. And I think at this time in the world, with everything that's going on, I'm really trying to be disciplined about creating what I want in my life, and not going down too many rabbit holes of distraction. That's one of the reasons I let go of all my social media, to just unplug from all the voices, all the information, all the technology of bombardment to confuse and to, to make it so difficult to know what we think and what we feel. So it's one of the things I just love, that you just encourage women and parents to go into what they want to create, to not waste their time pointing fingers and blaming and all of those things. So I think that is such a beacon of light. I keep feeling like what I feel, I need to fill myself with light. And it's hard. Honestly, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever experienced, to fill myself with light when I feel so unsure of the future. Mm-hmm. And yet that is what we have to do. And I feel like that's what I have to do. And I fail at it a lot. What I do on Annapurna Living, it's interesting when you're describing, probably from my website, it's changed so much. I probably have to go in there and change a lot of it. Because it really is a labor of love. It's not my job. You know what I mean? It's this.
It's your passion.
It is my passion. Yeah. But what I really try to do is and I thought about it today when I was, cooking and working out, literally in the kitchen. When I first started Annapurna Living, I would do my meditations early in the morning, on the kitchen floor, because I really didn't have anywhere I could do it without waking up somebody. Mm. And I do it pretty quietly. I connect, and it's super simple. But I wanted to show people, women, because I feel my audience is women and I speak to women, that it didn't have to be perfect, and that their spiritual practice didn't have to look a certain way. They didn't need a special room. They didn't need anything but a devoted, open heart to wanting to connect to themselves.
Yes.
And that's why I think I resonate so deeply with when I listened to you on Luke's story the first time, and I was like, I want to know her. I really like her. She'd be one of my besties, and I want to know more. And I started listening to your podcasts and sharing them with a lot of people. Watched you go on your digital detox. Thought to myself, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to get off of Instagram, a little bit. And then all of a sudden, as I'm lying in bed thinking, well, how can I let go of it? I mean, some of my friends, that's how they connect with me. And how will I know this or that? And I was like, that's addiction.
Exactly.
That's addiction. And I got to just cold turkey it. And of course, then it became interesting when I cut it off. I started being using the news as social media, right? Filling that addiction with more information. And then I stopped that. And I still have my moments where I definitely grab for the sugar, I call it, grabbing for that hit. But I'm trying to be an example to my young daughter, to my sons, to myself, to be in the present, to just be here with my family, not be in another dimension, in the matrix, so to speak. And it's not easy. The world has been set up, and we are all the way in to almost not being able to function without our phones. The next step for me is going to be getting rid of my phone and having a flip phone. That's next. When I'm done with this job, my husband and I both want to do that. I'm not interested in this way of life. I really am not. And I don't know what the answer is, but I just don't want to be feeling like I'm having to interact with everything and everyone all the time.
Exactly. And it's so interesting you said that, because I listened to you on Luke's story as well, and had so many aha moments and felt exactly the same about you. And it's one of the reasons why I want you to come here and talk, because I feel that you are that voice of sanity, that wise friend that sits us down and says, hey, okay, here's what it's like. This is what we need to focus on. This is what we need to remember. So when I heard you say a couple of things that's really important for me to talk about when it comes to this, it's really important that we talk about this addiction and the phones, because it's almost like that is the only thing we don't talk about in society right now. We talk about trafficking, we talk about racial issues, but we don't talk about actual grooming happening within our own family, teaching our children to be dancing for attention, looking a certain way for attention, being programmed, just like slot machines, by people who invented it, who say, we're not giving it to our children, we are worried. You should be worried too. So I want to hear a little bit more about what it felt like to step out of it, because I think so many moms you're talking about isolation in motherhood as well. So many moms are afraid of isolation, loneliness, not being able to make money, because there's a lot of things that's going on with business there as well. So whether you're a creative or an online content creator, an influencer, someone who wants to change the world, how do we change the world without this? I don't think none of us have the answer for that. Yeah. But that, and then you talked about the importance of mothering without this force, pressure, action, the masculine way of doing things. And I think that's what I love about your projects, your passions with your Annapurna Living and the yoga and mindfulness project, is the feminine way of mothering. So can you talk about the way you look at mothering? How can we return to a more peaceful and healing way of being in that role? Because it looks like an action movie when I look around the moms that I deal with. It's crazy. So can you pull us back, please?
Well, first of all, it's a struggle for everybody. I certainly have not figured anything out. I'm just super curious about it. When I first had my kids, we weren't dealing with the cell phones and all of that stuff. I was I'd been working, since I was pretty young. I was waiting tables, a bus girl, and then waitress, and then a model, and then I became an actress. And, I've just been working since I was pretty young. And so when I had my children and I had the privilege of having money in the bank so that I didn't have to go to work, I chose to be a stay-at-home mom. And I chose that. It was very easy for me to choose because, first of all, I didn't have any financial pressure at that time. And I feel that having my kids actually healed me. And that's sort of why that is why I love mothering. And yes. I think it's kind of the key to staying interested, is that when it's hard, I grow. And I look at it as an opportunity for another layer of growth. I'm not looking at it like, okay, well, when they get to be 18 and then I can have my life. No, I am going through the messy, really hard, challenging stuff while I'm in it. And the way that I feel almost like guilty that my children actually healed me. They healed a part of me that was empty. And it was like in the holding of them, in the nursing of them, in the nighttime, the co-sleeping. I slept with all of my children. I nursed them all for a long time. I gave birth at home. My reclaiming of my feminine came through giving birth. When I first became pregnant and had planned to have a natural childbirth, and a doctor said to me, my regular OBGYN, we'll see about that. Up until that point, I was quite comfortable with men in white coats talking to me that way. I didn't question that. But in that moment, as a 34-year-old woman, in that moment, I went, no. If I don't take my power right now, and it wasn't this intellectual, it was internal, where I went, no way.
Yes.
This guy, and I looked at him, and he'd been my OBGYN for years. I liked him. And I walked out and I said, no way.
Mm-hmm.
And my life changed from that. So my children, like actually being pregnant, giving birth, has opened me to a part of me that I didn't even know was there. And so I'm so indebted and grateful, because I hadn't questioned that masculine structure, or I hadn't questioned education or the medical model of care. I had never really even crossed my mind. I've always been a healthy person. And suddenly I saw a different way of living. And, you know, giving birth naturally, although it was incredibly difficult the first time, and I had to process a lot after that birth. That's something that I actually do a lot for just women in general, is help them just by, as a friend, processing birth trauma. And that was a real passion for me. I was so passionate about giving birth. So I was like, people would send their friends to me, you know, and I would talk about it. And then I got kind of humbled around that too, where I was like, it's so unique for everyone. I don't want anyone like following my lead just because like it worked for me. And I feel it's so personal. The journey is so personal. But I think when you look at it, when you look at growing, I'm growing as much as my children are growing. Mm. And it's not easy. And it's, you know, there are many a dark night of the soul over and over and over again. And I think I hadn't really experienced that up until then either, because I had been living my life pushing anything away that made me feel that way.
And I think that's, if that's something that you can offer some support around, being in the darkest moments, often we want them to go away. And when you talk about processing trauma, many of the moms that end up in a situation with an autistic child have had a lot of trauma, medical trauma, birth trauma, detachment from the body throughout youth, that then ends up with a load and a child that's out of control in tantrums and so many symptoms. And so it can feel like I'm in the middle of a complete horror movie. So how do I make that go away? And I remember hearing you say at some point, don't ever wish for a moment to go away. So if you can remember what you said about that in a previous interview, I loved that whole approach. And can you connect that to your approach to healing trauma? Because whether it's birth trauma, life trauma, medical trauma, I think that would be useful.
Yeah, and I think it also is easy to say when you're not, you know, a parent dealing with more extreme things. It's got to be so difficult. You know, I really, I know that I'm speaking of this from relative privilege in terms of my children and the things that I have faced or had to face. But at the same time, that doesn't negate anyone's trauma or what they're dealing with, right? So I think I used to feel like if something was hard, it kind of felt like a hot potato, right? Like I just want to like throw it off of me.
Yeah.
Give it to someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Ask someone else's opinion. Fix it. I was like a big fixer. Mm-hmm. Like I know how people would come to me because I knew how to like get you just from your problem to like solution. And I really didn't have much experience with feelings and all of that. And I remember when my children were little, because my kids are older now, I have like 17, 15, 11. But if I was in a really hard period of just challenge, whatever that looked like, I can't think of it specifically right now, the temptation would be to just want to wish it away so you could move on to the next thing. And there's a book that we read as kids, and I've been thinking about it to our kids when they're little. I've been thinking about it a lot during this, what we're going through collectively. Mm-hmm. And it's that I'm going on a bear hunt. It's going to be I forget, You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You got to go through it.
I love that.
And I'm constantly amazed at the capacity to go through things. And I think one of the interesting things I'm looking at right now, I thought this was kind of interesting when I was in living in LA, because I don't live there anymore, but how marijuana became legal, right? Which, listen, I don't have like, I'm not saying good or bad or anything like that, but I noticed that we were all like, all this trauma was coming at all of us. And you know, when quarantine and all that came down, they kept liquor stores open and marijuana stores open as essential, you know, not the gym, of course not. That would have really helped me. But, you know, I don't need marijuana or alcohol as those aren't essential for me. But I was wondering if we as a society just really, you know, having marijuana, and I know medicinally it's so great, and it's fun too, and it's nice to have that little space from your thoughts. But it's kind of easy to control people when they're all like, nothing's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. I started thinking about that the other day. I was like, gosh, that happened quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it should have ever been illegal, but like the legalization and the marketing and like everything is, you know, marijuana in LA anyway. I mean, it's unbelievable. But anyway, I don't know why I went that route.
It's about numbing. It's about numbing out rather than walking through that.
Yes, we can walk through. I walk through the shadow of death, and I fear no evil. It's like, I'm not a religious person at all. One of my spiritual teachers gave me that line. I've never been to church. I mean, I just was never raised religious. My connection to God is my own spiritual connection to energy and the source of myself and my connection to something bigger than me. But we have to be able to walk through hard things and show our children that we have the resilience to walk through hard things. I remember when my third child was born, my daughter, one of my beloved dogs I'd had for 18 years, we had to put him down, and it was kind of a really tough moment. And I, in a moment, chose to do it the day after she was born. And my husband did it. And this dog, I loved him so much, but I kind of had to detach in order to let this happen. I just had a baby, so I'm super open and super in that other realm. You know, you're in such a different realm. And I remember telling my boys, who were, I don't know, 6 and 3, oh yes, Sherman is, you know, dead or whatever. I don't even remember. And I'm like wanting to bawl, wanting to cry, but thinking I can't show my children that. And then it hit me, like, in that moment, why on earth would I not want my children to see that? What am I showing them? What am I teaching them? Why am I protecting them from death and love, and the love I had for my dog? I mean, I'm realizing it like in that moment. And I started to cry, and they both, you know, came and gave me love and compassion. And I thought to myself, what a strange culture.
Yes.
That I've been raised in, that is too afraid to show that I was too afraid to show my children that I loved this animal so much that him dying was hurting me.
Yes. And
I think we do that in life. I cry a lot more than I used to. I think when we did our interview, I was crying about, I think we were talking about, you know, I think I was talking about not wanting to miss out on anything with my children, like I don't want to look back with regret. And I've sort of parented that way, although I still have regret. Even knowing that, you still will have it. I mean, I don't have it real bad, but I have it in moments. You know, I have this one image that I think about, well, like lots of them, but one that's coming to me right now. I was getting in shape for a movie, which is often the case when you have 3 babies and you're working a little bit in between and you've gained 60 pounds or whatever, you're losing weight to go to work. And I'm on the treadmill, it's in my garage, and my son, my oldest son, was learning how to do hearts. cut out hearts and draw hearts. And it was like weeks and weeks and weeks, right? Of drawing hearts. And he would just come and stick them on the treadmill. And just come and tape them on the treadmill. And I'm like, oh, but I got to get in shape, right? Mm-hmm. I got to look good for my next job. And this is all here. Like, I'm not saying it to them, but sometimes I think, oh, I wish I'd just gotten off the treadmill. And I know I received them. I received his love and I received that. But that tender moment of that 5-year-old, I will never get again. Mm. I won't get that again.
No, exactly.
It ends. It ends, and you get other things that are fabulous and amazing and different. But
and that's what you said. You said the reason why you have to not want this moment to go away with your children, no matter how hard it is you have no idea how fast this time will fly and how quickly this is over with. Yeah. And the moment is gone forever.
No one can prepare you for that, I think, as a mother. No one can prepare you. Even people will tell you that. I thought I thought it wasn't going to be so hard for me. I think I cried for about 2 years off and on when my first child moved into that next phase of peers and all of that beautiful, amazing stuff that you want for them. That's why you're doing all this love and attachment parenting. And then it happens and you're like, oh,
the grief.
It's intense. And at the same time, I'm so glad I went through it because I'm a beacon of light for my friends behind me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because I didn't feel like I really had anyone to look to. Mm-hmm. And so I look at everything and that's just a rite of passage. But when I look at, even, situations that are super difficult that I've been through, I look at them and I think I can help somebody. Mm-hmm. Somebody will come to me at some point and share something and I'll say, yeah, I know. Here's my story. And I want to do that because that's how we heal, is by sharing our vulnerability, our stories with each other. I'm studying right now studying with a mentor of mine to be a compassionate empathy coach.
Wow.
So, and I'm doing that for myself. I'm doing that for my family. I'm doing that for my friends. I'm doing that for my Annapurna Living community. But I'm mostly doing it for myself. And because it's been probably the most life-changing work that I've done with anyone. And that was with Natalie Christensen, who holds space for feelings. Mm. And I had no experience with that. Even with my kids when they were little, if my older son was going through something, I'd be like, okay, let's move out of this emotion. And I thought I was actually giving him a really good skill set because it's really been powerful for me to, I pick myself up and I dust myself off and I move on. It is a wonderful skill set. I'm so grateful that I have that resilience.
Yeah.
But, teaching a small child that is insane. Thank God I realized really quickly, that it's okay to cry, that it's okay to feel like you're in a bad mood. It's okay. And, my daughter just the other day was really curt with me and really rude with me. And it was just like, and after she ate, she said, Mom, I'm really sorry that I was rude to you. I was really hungry. I feel so much better now. And I said, yeah, I totally get it. Thank you for apologizing. It really hurt my feelings, but I get it,
Mm-hmm. How do you create these rites of passage for your children and allow them to feel in a society where all we do is try to run away from feelings? So we are numbing it out by being on social media, for example, constantly seeking new information, alcohol, gaming, looks, performance, and doing all these things in this very superficial reality that we get seduced into all the time. How do you insist on depth and feelings and rituals in your family?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I just try to be an example.
Yes. And how do you do
And
that?
and I try to be an example, and I have a really great partner
Mm.
who has different views on certain things, and I've grown to really appreciate that, because who wants to be married to themselves, right?
Oh shit, yeah.
And so I just I think the most important thing is to be connected, and when you're not, to just notice and come back. And my kids are on phones, my kids play video games, I have a glass of wine sometimes. Sometimes I lie in bed with my laptop and spend hours, and then I don't, and then
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
And we talk about it, and we share about it, and we communicate. We have dinner every night, and we always have, and we talk. And I just don't think my temptation is to want to be black or white with it.
Yeah.
I wanted that. My kids grew up in a Waldorf school. We didn't do technology. They didn't have phones. We didn't watch TV. That was my favorite time of life. My oldest son, when he got his first iPad, it changed the dynamic of our family.
Talk a little bit about that, because I remember you said that in a different conversation we had. The moment that was introduced to your family, something shifted.
Yeah, it totally shifted. And I think here's the tricky thing. You and I, with the ages of our children, from 0 to 7, the child is learning who they are, right? So if you sit them in front of a screen, that's who's showing them who they are.
Yeah.
If you let them play 0 to 7, just get to 7, for God's sake. Just have some common sense. I just want to say to parents, like, have some common sense. And there was a time not long ago when I had my kids where the pediatric, whoever, whatever, I probably wouldn't even respect them anyway, but they said children shouldn't be in front of screens under 2. Now you see babies with the today I saw this little girl. She was playing a game on a video thing. She was very little, and then her dad took the phone and she just started screaming because she wanted it back. And it's called addiction. I mean, I'm looking at it. It's so obvious. And at the same time, I'm judging it, right? And so in that moment, I say, no, I know that's upsetting me. And I do that somewhere too. This father doesn't need to feel judged. I mean, we are all in this together. This is a shit show, for God's sake. I mean, but as parents, we're so addicted too that it's at least, I used to say about smoking cigarettes when my mom had me, people smoke cigarettes. The doctor told the women, yeah, have a cigarette. It's going to relax you. There's all this, lies and deception about cigarettes. And I would always think to myself when I was younger, okay, the doctors told my mom's generation smoking cigarettes was okay. And I think, well, where's your common sense there? Like, where's your common sense? I mean, duh, right? When they finally said smoking's not actually good for you, duh, right? We are even worse because we're not only smoking, we're giving the cigarette to the kids, for God's sake. We're giving them the phone. We are a million times worse than that generation.
Yeah.
We know better. Then we go, oh, everybody has it. I mean, I'm talking about me too. I'm not talking about,
I know you're not.
Everybody's doing it. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, everyone's got Instagram, and how else are they going to communicate with their friends? All these things, evolution. We're evolving, and people hated Elvis Presley dancing, and then they hated the TV. And no, this is so different, I think.
This is changing our personality. It is changing our way of relating to each other. This is a whole generation of kids growing up with a phone between them and their parents. Eye contact, even. To me, it is so
I'm grateful that I got through having young children.
Yeah.
I feel for the younger generation. I remember even at our Waldorf school, when my children, so let's say this is maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago, you wouldn't see a parent with a phone on a Waldorf, dropping off your children. I mean, you just would not see it. Now it's like you go, to a performance, everyone's videotaping it. I mean, you would not have seen that a short time ago.
No.
And so I try to, like, in those instances, I try to enjoy it. And afterwards I think, oh, I wish I had a video. I wish I could share it with my mom or send it to her. And I go, no, this is for me and my child. This is for, my child to have the experience and not look at themselves having the experience because it's on my phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I even think with like the Zoom thing right now with classes, and the thing that I'm the most concerned about it is this. Oh, seeing myself talking to Ninka.
Yeah.
And you're little and you're looking at you. I'm looking at you when I'm talking about. Now I'm looking at myself like, oh yeah, oh God, these wrinkles maybe, But you're little and you've never really looked at yourself like that before because you're not meant to look at yourself like that yet. We've got kindergartners on Zoom, and I know that we need something, and I don't know the answer. And that's the thing. I am failing at all these things, but I'm curious about them, and
Well, you're noticing them. So what did you notice when this came into your family? What changed, and how did that make you feel?
Oh, it's devastated. I still have moments of grief about it because what changed was, up until that point, my children would play all day. And as soon as you give a kid a screen, nothing competes with that screen. And so suddenly they're bored all the time. Suddenly there's nothing to do. It's always the luring back to the screen. There's no balance with screens when you're little, or when you're a grown-up. It's very difficult. And I've relaxed a lot. I mean, for quite a few years, it was a real point of contention with me and my family, because I also don't want my children to feel guilty when they see me look at them. And I was doing that for sure.
Yeah.
And that's not what I want. That's not who wants to be around someone who makes you, who when, you feel shame because of, you're letting them down, you're disappointing them. And then, I don't want them sneaking or hiding. And it's just like food, right? It's like, I don't want that dynamic. So it's definitely tricky, but I noticed with my family after, the iPad, I remember it was had a red case. And how many times did I take it away? And all of us were having the same issue. The only stress we were having in our families was about these devices, and we've gotten through it. And I feel like my boys definitely spend far too much time on it sometimes, and then it's good. And when they're engaged and at school, and right now is just so tricky because it's really concerning. Maybe the opposite will happen. Like the backlash will be so huge. These young people are smart and they're deep and they're thoughtful, and hopefully they're going to go, what, this isn't cool. I don't want this life,
My 18-year-old is very concerned, and he watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix about this. And that has started a process in him. We'll see where that goes, but it's definitely, he says he wants to live a life without those phones when he has kids. So,
and he can, it's just a matter of just doing it. And about business, like even Annapurna Living, I had a presence on Instagram with Annapurna Living, and I'm not a very big marketer. I don't like to sell things, but I have a business that I have an employee that I pay, and I have overhead for that. And, I don't have nowhere to market except my email list. And for now, because it's not my full-time job, I make my living as an actress. I'm okay with that, but it's a conundrum. I mean, how did we in the olden days get word out? And I keep coming back to this idea of just smaller communities and being okay with a smaller, more intimate community, maybe having to charge more in order to support that. I always try to offer it to people who can't afford it. I've always tried to keep my prices really low because I remember like having no money and you know, $20 was like too much. And I remember that. So I've always tried to keep my stuff at a really lower price point, having kind of offerings that kind of are free. And I think you do the same thing, free or inexpensive, and then maybe a little higher end to have more engagement. But I certainly haven't cracked that code. Maybe if it was my first full-time job, I'd really have to figure it out.
But how was it then to leave? We met via Instagram, and I know that 50% of people that are following me want to quit Instagram, and they're super scared of it. So what did it feel like, and how did you do it?
Well, you were helpful. You were really watching you do that really helped me. And I did meet a lot of like amazing people. I mean, if I saw somebody that I just thought was amazing, I'd just, you know, DM them and say, hey, I want to interview you for my show, for my website. It was great. Thank God. I'm so grateful not to be on there. And sometimes I check, like, I don't have access to it, but you can like Google somebody's Instagram. If a friend will say, did you see what so-and-so said on Instagram? I'll say no. And I won't be able to see the comments or just see the main thing. I do that a little bit, not much. It was really freeing because I was spending way too much time. You know, I'd be looking at something and then just like everybody, suddenly I'd be like, oh, where's that location? Oh, what's that?
Yeah.
What's that? What's that? Who's that? Oh, I like that. And suddenly it's just like sucking me in. Now I forget I have a phone. Like I was, you know, I forget I have a phone a lot of the time. That's pretty freeing.
That's amazing. So
yeah,
how much time has it freed up for you, do you think?
A lot of mental time. My husband said I felt like a different person because I was always kind of thinking about other things, right? Like I would be there, but in the room, but maybe I'd be, you know, reading someone's story or like doing something while checking or something. I don't even remember why I used it or how I used it now that I'm off of it. And I'm just really not a fan of Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like Amazon, like my next thing is I don't want to give that guy any more money.
Exactly.
Okay. So but how do I get my stuff? You know, I go to the bookstore and I order the books and it takes 2-3 weeks to get the books.
Yeah.
And I gotta be okay with a slower life, right? I'm so used to getting everything when I want it. And so Amazon is next for me because, you know, if I look at this whole time that we've gone through in the last 6 months, that infuriates me. That there's a handful of people who are killing it financially right now, while small businesses are devastated. That, you know, beyond, you know, that's one piece that devastates me. But that's just not right. It's just not right. So, but if I really want to put my money where my mouth is, then I just personally, I don't have to put it on my Instagram. I don't have to make you do that. Or that's what I started to really dislike about social media. I really don't care what anybody else thinks. I really don't want to hear what celebrities think about X, Y, and Z.
No.
I don't want to tell anybody even what I think. And, you know, you get all this pressure like that you're supposed to say this and that. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. My whole thing that I do on Annapurna Living, what my goal is, what my goal has been for myself as a human being, is to find my own way, to find my own voice away from the noise. And so I'm not going to contribute to that noise. So even in posting on Instagram, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed like an image that I would have in my day. And I love to write, and I love to write like small kind of simple text. So actually as a creative, I enjoyed that. So now I just do it in here.
Yeah. Perfect.
You know, I've always done it in here and I'm just doing it in here.
Yeah.
And it's for me.
You're writing it on paper.
And if it's something that I think is worth a blog post, then I do that.
Yeah. And so it's your email list and then you have a smaller group of people. How does it feel to cut down that noise? Because one of the things that I find stressful to my brain is this superficial contact with so many people that actually has no depth. So emojis that are being sent left and right, and having to relate to so many people. I know you talk a lot about the importance of community, touch to touch, food to food, person to person. So how have you been able to switch to that, and can you give us some hope so that more people will have the courage to change from thinking we have to be in contact with everybody to actually minimize our tribes to more physical contact,
to more intimacy?
mm.
I mean, honestly, I never knew how many followers I had. I mean, I never really paid attention. I have no idea. I never really looked at how many likes. That wasn't my thing on Instagram. My addiction was more kind of looking outside of myself at what other people were doing and getting ideas. And then those ideas usually were pretty unrealistic. And so then it would become kind of like, oh, I want to go there, or I want to live there. And it's never the truth anyway, right? We know the truth of the Instagram post is a moment in time.
Yeah.
And I also didn't really interact with my community on Instagram. I kind of chose not to do that. Like it was just, I just wouldn't even have known how to do that.
Good for you.
And if I had like bad comments, I just ignored them. Like I just, I'd be like, okay. I wouldn't erase them. I was like, because usually people that liked me would just protect me from bad comments. But people would say things like, oh, she's old or whatever, all these like little, whatever. And you just go, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? I don't care what somebody that doesn't even know me says about me. So I guess it wasn't really hard for me in that context. The thing that I want to put more energy on the people in my life, right? One of my best friends is a doctor. She's an anthroposophic doctor. And she helps people with she does the metabolic approach to cancer. And in her training and in her, she's just amazing. And she told me, and a group of my women friends we were in the same Waldorf class together. Your health is determined by the 5 closest people to you.
Wow.
I love that. And I want to invest in the people in my life. And I think this temptation, even like some people would say to me, what do you mean you don't know I just got a new dog? I posted it on my social media, and I would be like, can you call me or text me? Or I sent you an invitation on Facebook, and I'm like, can you not call me? Or you just sort of have to just veer away, go through whatever detox you have to go through, and build your life brick by brick the way you want to build it. And all the things will fall away that you maybe don't even want, but you're just used to having. And then slowly you build it the way you do want it. And I'm in the process. It's always a process. I do not have it figured out. I have nothing figured out. I know that. I'm a work in progress all the time.
But how do you then, so the way that you do things, where I love that you have this one rule of no desperation and rigidity. So as a woman, and I can see the pressure, I feel so devastated that 50-year-old women all around me show up on Instagram in bikinis. I cannot think of anything more horrific. We have to,
unless you want to be, unless you love it, but no, I'm with you.
But how do you cope with aging and grace and lack of subscribing to this whole desperation and rigidity and workout and grinding, just keep on going, moving forward? Because of course we can all look ripped and perfect, but I love the way that you describe spaces you create for yourself where you can just be yourself exhale, relax, have dinners, dogs around you, the imperfect way of just existing in safe spaces. So how do you cope with all this in such a high pressure environment as Hollywood is?
Well, my daughter said something really interesting, so great today. You just reflected something to me that my daughter said that was a piece of gold. She was walking in the door, and we have shoes like everywhere. There's 5 of us. My boys have huge feet, just shoes everywhere. And my daughter said, if you're going to be a family, your house is always going to be messy. It can't be perfect. She goes, it can't be perfect unless, you live in like a mansion and you have like a team of cleaning people.
Love that. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm training every day right now because I'm in a movie, and I have a trainer, and she's cooking for me, and she's one of my dearest friends. And so I am working really hard and it took me about a year of discipline and devotion, but no desperation. And it's not easy. And sometimes I think, it's hard. But you just show up anyway. And I think there's nothing more beautiful to me than a human being who is so comfortable in their own skin. And I feel like every year I'm getting more comfortable in my own skin. And yet at the same time, nothing will, get you to the gym than thinking of yourself on the big screen. So I'm still vain and still definitely human in that regard, but I've never really prescribed to the Hollywood idea. I guess I felt pressure. That's not true. I definitely felt pressure, but I choose to enjoy my life and to know when I need to train and know when I need to care. And in the caring, to soften into the caring and not harden into the caring.
Yes.
Although sometimes I do harden into the caring and I feel sick. It's like, nothing will put me in a worse mood than trying on pants and have them not fit.
No,
that will literally make me a bitch the whole day.
No,
So, I'm definitely not a master in this, but I feel like this round of like getting ready for this movie, I do Pilates, which is very feminine. I walk on a treadmill. I don't run. My trainer will say, do this and this. And I'll say, no,
yeah,
I don't want to.
Yeah.
She'll be like, and I'll say, yeah, I'll say, I want to train. Well, over the holidays, over Christmas last year, I was training every morning at 6 a.m. because I wanted to get home before or else I was going to miss all my family time, and I was about to go off to work. And so there was a time for like 3 weeks. I did 6 to 8 every morning. And it really was a game changer for my body, for my spirit, my soul, my health, everything. But in general, I don't want to do that if I don't have to do that. So like, I also know that I don't have to stick with that idea. So like now, one of my most favorite things in my life is time that's not planned or rushed. That to me is a spa.
Yeah.
Is to know that I have time in the morning to drink my tea, write in my journal, and not be on a time frame.
Yes.
So I build that into my life. That is my big luxury, is I make that a priority because I love how expansive that feels for me. And then there are times when I have to. So when I have to work, if I have to be at work at 8, I'm getting up at 5:30, 6 to have that leisurely time. And it's hard to get out of bed, but once I do, and I'm in my kitchen and I light my candle, I light a candle every morning, and it's dark, and I close the doors off of where I'm living right now so that no one else can hear me, and I sit with my journal and my tea, I feel like I'm at a 5-star hotel that I'm having. There's no vacation that could give me that feeling. So for me, the things that I need to carry me have to be things I do on my own, that cost no money, that I don't have to leave my family for. Walking out bare feet on the ground, right? Looking at the full moon, buying, I'll get one flower every Friday. I buy flowers. It's
Oh, that's a beautiful tip.
well, it's a teaching that I learned from my teacher called, one of my teachers, Paramatma, Siri Sadhana. She calls it the movement of flowers. And it's Friday is a Venus day. Friday is in alignment with Venus. So it's love and beauty. And so I buy flowers every Friday. And on this job, I'm in Berlin, I buy 4 bunches of flowers every Friday. And I give them to whoever I feel to give them to. I never know who I'm going to give them to. And she taught me that. And that has been so beautiful. My husband used to go on a walk on Fridays, and he'd get me one gardenia and put it on the table. And that simple act,
wow,
meant so much to me. He makes me tea when we're together. He makes me tea in the morning. That's his devotion to me. And of course it's deeper than that, but I don't need him to buy me diamonds. I don't need him to buy me jewelry or take me somewhere or a handbag or whatever. Like, I have zero interest in that. But a cup of tea made with love consistently, even when we're not talking to each other.
Yeah.
Even when I'm driving him crazy.
Yeah.
To me, that is, if the things you build into your life as touchstones are doable, and it's like, I'm cooking a lot for my family right now while I'm training and working and stuff. I haven't been shooting. I've been training this last few weeks. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I got big kids, and it's a lot of work, and I love it, but it's kind of wearing me down. And when I get to that point of like, I realize I'm not letting it nourish me. And I know how to let it nourish me. And I mean, sometimes it means I'm not cooking. I'm done. We're going out for dinner or whatever. But I turn my music on, I have my candle, and I get my phone away from me, and I let the act of doing it feed me.
Wow.
And that's when I start to like love my life, because that's my life right now. Because in a minute, I'm not going to be cooking for anybody.
Yes.
They're going to be grown, and I'm going to be like, oh, I miss that.
That's where I'm at now, because my kids want to cook for themselves, so they cook their own meals. So yeah, so that's what. Is there any other tips? So getting up early in the morning so that you can have your tea, light a candle, have that space, getting out bare feet, looking at the moon, the flower ritual, I love. Any other small rituals that you teach women to integrate into their lives so that the mundane can become more sacred?
Just bringing that awareness whenever you feel that, wishing you were somewhere else, wishing you had someone else's life, wishing that things were different. What right in front of you can you shift to love it? Because whenever we're looking outside of ourselves, it's a warning sign to us that we're not paying attention to what we've got going on inside of us. And I think that's the number one thing. When you're looking outside of yourself, you will never, ever feel satisfied or content. And whenever you're looking outside of yourself as well, and you think someone else holds your healing or holds the answers for you, I say that's a red light. Run from the hills. And that is not your teacher. That is not your healer. That is not your acting coach, your sports trainer. I was talking about this with my trainer today. Any trainer who makes me feel like I need them or I won't be in great shape, they're gone. An acting teacher who makes me feel like if I don't work with them, they're gone. A spiritual teacher who I've never had that with a spiritual teacher, but I wouldn't have that in a spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
We have everything that we need.
Exactly.
To heal ourselves. If we can let go of the noise, turn off the friggin' phone, put it away, and give ourselves a break from all of the noise, we will know. And I'm saying it because I need to hear it. I don't have the answer. I don't know either, but I know that's the direction.
Oh, so good. I love that so much. How then, if this was your community and you were talking to them, what do you say to women who are fearful for the future, struggling with money, and dealing with all these chaotic situations that are coming up, and the negativity and judgment from other people? How, what if someone reaches out to you and say, how do I deal with this because it feels impossible right now? What would you say?
I would say connect to yourself. Just keep coming back to connecting to yourself and being okay with going through an uncomfortable piece of life. You know, the money thing is really hard. When I'm stressed out about money, it's almost impossible to relax the nervous system. And yet that's exactly what we have to do. Relaxing the nervous system is the key. And no one else has the answer. But if someone can help you point yourself into the direction of connecting to your own self, you will find your way. Sharing your vulnerability with your people. I mean, the big thing I'm kind of like learning about right now for myself is just admitting like some of the vulnerability that I have because I'm such a strong person.
Yeah.
So being able to say to a friend, hey, can you talk on FaceTime right now? Can we want to FaceTime and have tea? And they say, oh, I can't, I'm doing this and this. And my instinct is to go, oh, it's okay. I'm good. But then I'm starting to say, okay, I'm just feeling a little lonely right now.
Oh, beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like really new for me. And even if they can't do it, because I'm not right, I'm saying it. And I, as a woman, didn't want anyone to know that. Right?
Oh, yeah. I can say that for me, I had so my theme when I get into my trauma-based way of existing is my theme is then worth.
Oh, my 4 o'clock came and the phone's going to start ringing like crazy.
Right. Well, I just have one thing.
Yeah.
And that was that the worthlessness. So when you said, well, I get inspired by what you say, and you offer hope, and do you want to talk to my community? There was this sense of, well, I'm not that interesting, or I don't have anything to offer, or you know, that thing where that can be so insisting that I even didn't answer for several days because it's that much of a pattern. So do you ever feel not worthy well, even though everyone thinks that you've got it all together?
Well, I'll tell you what, you can break that. I have many journals as a young woman saying, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy. I had to really work at that. I don't feel it anymore.
Great.
You know, but I did very deeply. And I think that is a pattern that is so workable and because it's really so old.
Yeah.
We just have to go to it. We have to go to it. We have to give it love. The grown-up us has to go to that little girl and go, who told you that? We have to go, oh, that person told me that. Ew, I don't even like them.
Yeah.
Oh, those boys in like 7th grade who commented on my hips or my whatever. And in that moment, I went from feeling confident to feeling like nothing. Who are they today? Why am I letting a comment that happened in 7th grade dictate my whole life? No way. We become fierce protectors of ourselves and the little girl, and we heal that. And if we don't heal that, we perpetuate that forever. And that has to be healed.
Yes.
It's our duty. It's our responsibility. We would never let anyone talk that way to our child. And we have to do that for ourselves. And it's completely healable. Like, I'm talking like that. It's not a long healing. It's like,
yeah, I can feel that actually.
Done.
Yeah.
Done. And when it comes up, we go, oh yeah, I remember that. Okay, I got it. I got it, little one.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
it's gone.
it's gone. And when it is triggered, you go, oh, there's another layer here. Come on, come to me. I want to go even deeper. And then no one can mess with you. No one. And it's not like things don't hurt your feelings or whatever, but you're not living. If we don't do that work.
Yeah.
And we have to talk again, because we could talk forever.
Yes, we have to. And for those who want more of this and want to hang out with you, because that's what it feels like after having talked to you, there's never enough time. Where do you want people to go and find you?
Well, only if they feel inspired. AnnapurnaLiving.com. I have a very intimate group called The Living Room, where I do a live call on the full moon. I bring a theme into the month. This month we're talking about systems, and feminine systems. Next month we're talking about devotion and discipline. Devotion as discipline, basically. I pick these themes of whatever I'm dealing with, so I let them really grow organically. And I'm feeling the next 3 months are really important to be set up in a really strong way with the election and everything.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of chaos coming at us from all sides. So I say we hunker in right now. We create our little containers. We love our lives. We nurture ourselves, and we hold on tight.
And what about the Fierce Grace Collective? Is that like a place to go to do yoga and practice more? So
no, the Fierce Grace Collective is basically 12 modules that I made. I did it live, and it's just really going through the whole system with some meditation, but it's really about consciousness and bringing attention to, for instance, like being grounded. The first segment is being grounded. And then we talk about, so I go sort of through all the chakras, but not really in a new age way, more in like a really practical way. Like when we get here, it's like, how do I communicate? How do I communicate with myself? How do I talk about myself? We go here to the intuitive capacity, and I call it inner light. Like, how do I radiate my intuition? How do I know if it's my intuition or my fear? We go to the creative, all the different creative segments. So I have 12 segments that build this huge library of like videos that I've made on my kitchen floor, women that I've interviewed. It's just really this experience that is self-paced. It doesn't have a live element. So for instance, my Annapurna Living Room includes all of that library, and then you get a live call. That's sort of the model that I do.
Yes.
It's not perfect, but it's we're finding our way.
And that's supported by you. So that's beautiful and extremely affordable as well. Thank you so much for offering your light and wisdom. And
my pleasure.
Talk to you again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.